Hello and welcome to episode 30. Ta-da! So, I decided actually between episodes that I would detail the room and do all that myself off camera, just because I can think a lot more clearly off camera, and also because, well, it was tedious work. It was many hours of tedious work actually, and I wanted to give you guys something to watch, and also I wanted to move on with the project, and this way I can actually just show you the end result and then explain it to you. So where do I begin with explaining? I suppose the roof. The roof is a good place to start as any. Need to fly up there. Actually, what I did was I took these factory blocks, and I every 3 spaces, as you can see, I used the wand of equal trade and traded out this grid of factory blocks. Hello? I have a skeleton somewhere. Oh, there he is. Yeah, I've got some lighting issues at the moment. They need to be solved. And then I went in between with a hammer and raised the roof just 1 block in those areas, just to give the illusion of depth. Well, it's not really an illusion, there is depth there, but to provide more depth. And the way that I prevented the middles from connecting with connected textures is, as you can see, it's a carpenter's block that's been painted with a factory block. So otherwise it would look connected, and I didn't really like that. I like this more because it looks like it's more bolted in place. It looks more robust. The other thing I did was create more depth into the walls, and I did that by creating these big caution stripe type motifs around the room. They blend into the room with ramps apart from the actual caution stripes themselves, which remain kind of edged. It gives a nice little look even though it's in this dark corner here. They run all around the room, and then they have these big supports. These supports actually go up on either side of the ramp more than they actually do on the caution stripe, and you can see that the best if you look at something like this caution stripe, where it's 3 on that side and 2 on this side. I think it's the same for this one, similar. Yeah, it's shorter on this side than it is on that side, and that's because these vertical supports are aligned to the catwalks, not the caution stripes. And that just creates a lot of vertical depth. If you create areas where there is transparent space where you can see through, like I can see through here, and you know, kind of like aim down there into that little area as well as underneath here, you're creating a lot of visual interest for the brain. It's just called layering in art, basically, and that's what I've done. I've layered. So this is like 3 layers, because you have the wall, you have the caution stripe, and then you have the supports. And it's the same down here as well. I created this kind of motif around the bottom, which is like this. It's the mesh that we use for the underside or the center of the catwalks, except now because it's placed sideways it more looks like ventilation, and that's bordered by more factory blocks. I use these rusted factory blocks to basically uniform the design of the room, because one of the other things that you can get carried away with is using too much of a whole lot of other options that you have. There's very many options I could go with, but because I restricted myself and said rusted blocks, mesh, caution stripes, and whatever this stuff is. And actually there I'm cheating a little because I'm using another one here for the ladders. Oh yes, I made a way up, by the way, these ladders. It creates a uniform. It creates a visual uniform and doesn't let the room get too busy. Because if it gets too busy, then you can't focus on anything. The other thing I did is I put these glowstone covers in here to look like floor lamps that run along the catwalks. On the underside they're actually inverted cage lamps, but you'll see here there's this one mesh out of place. That's because that is in fact a cover as well. Another detail I did is I created these vertical supports down here that look like they're holding up the catwalks, and then also I've done these big like cables. I'm thinking them in my head as big cables, right, which are also helping to support the catwalks, and they're bolted on either end to these walls. And if you've ever seen cables, huge industrial cables, they always have these like lug nut tightening areas along the middle of them, where that's basically the only place that you can tighten these cables, by tightening these lugs. And that's what these are meant to represent, these blocks hanging in midair. So it gives you that kind of low res idea to a huge factory. And that's what I like. Hello. That really is causing some issues, isn't it? Get out of here. For now, you know, I might just do this. I took all these down recently when I did all this, but it's causing issues for now. Right, okay, that should do it. Hopefully. Okay, today, what I wanted to get started on was, once again, if we consider, that I mentioned last episode, if we consider this here extractor. Oh, that's what's running, okay. This here extractor is at least a 5 times 5 times ore processing. So you put ore in here and it gets doubled here, tripled, quadrupled, pentupled, or more, potentially. I think it's possible in some circumstances that it won't double on each stage, but I'm not too sure of the specifics on that. But the idea that I had was, this was just a little bit too easy. Sure, it had a ridiculously huge draw on power, and also very, very recently, as you can see, I've moved things in here because it was just easier. Raker added lubricant to the magnostatic engine, or a lubricant requirement, and it eats lubricant like there's no tomorrow. So Raker has created more resource cost in using the magnostatic engine. But the magnostatic engine isn't what the problem is. The problem is the extractor. The extractor's just too easy. It's all in one block. And so I also was talking about the fact that I wanted to move on to adapting to mechanism. And I have some plans for what to do today. We're going to start on mechanism or tripling. Is it tripling? No, it's quadrupling. We can get it up to quadrupling in one go, and that's what we're going to work on today. So that involves ore purification, crushing, cleaning, and then smelting. And I've already built some of the parts that we're going to need, but that's what we're going to do. Because something I really appreciate from Aidan C. Brady, who's the author behind Mechanism, is that way back in one of my very, very early episodes, maybe episode 3 or 4, I was talking about how something underutilized in Minecraft modding is commodities of space. Aidan C. Brady seems to have gotten that requirement pretty down pat, and it's why I really enjoy Mechanism. And so something we're going to have to start with is these electrolytic separators. But before we do that, what I want to do is I want to create a subnetwork in order to run the ore processing section of the base for AE. And to do that, I've already made a controller, a power relay, a interface, a drive, which will contain all the incoming ores and the processing stages of ores. Then we're going to need storage units, which I already have a couple spare. We're going to need a whole lot of cable. That should do just for now. Crossing fingers, I'll make some more actually. We're going to need a whole lot of universal cable. The elite universal cable should do for now. And what else will we need? That should do it for now. Alright, so the first thing we want to do is we want to set up where we're going to put our subnetwork. I think right here in the middle would be good. I've already thought this through. So we're going to do that. And then we want our ME controller to go here. We want our interface to go here. We then want the interface to point at the controller, which creates this a one-way connection. It means the interface will communicate with the controller, but the controller cannot connect with the rest of the network, and you'll see what I mean in a second. Then we want our ME power relay to be connected to the controller, because the controller needs to get power somehow. And then we want the relay to be connected to the rest of the network, because the relay needs to get power to be able to give the controller power. But the relay does not provide any sort of data connection, so the controller can't communicate through to the rest of the network through it. And then we want our drive to sit here, and then we'll put a couple of storage units in there. And I did forget one thing. We need an interface, just in case things go wrong. Interface. It's not called an interface, it's called a terminal. Access terminal. I'm sure I know how to make a terminal. Apparently I don't. So I need a conversion matrix. Oh boy. Conversion. Please make me a conversion matrix. Please and thank you. You can hear the everything happening below me. Ah, no, everything's going wrong. No, stop it. Terminal. There we go, terminal. And we want... Actually, you know what? We will break these and swap them around. Controller, power relay, interface, ME drive, and the terminal can sit on the floor. But the reason I want to do that is because I want to pass the cable underground rather than back through behind the wall. It'll just make the trip a lot shorter. The other thing I might do, while I like this concrete, it's slippery, and to show you what I mean by that, if I close up this, I can't walk in here because it's based on ice, and in fact I'm pressing forward and to the right there. All sorts of weird behaviour goes on with concrete. It's very odd, so I might end up replacing the floor. But anyway, where were we? We want to come down here, basically run it. Whoa, no. Run it all the way. Alright, that should be working actually. If we do that, What's it saying? Power is low. 2.2 megajoules a tick. So it's not getting enough power for whatever reason. Controller conflict. There we go. That was odd. Alright. For some reason the power relay was in fact giving that controller information. But as you can see, this controller has a blue bar instead of a normal power bar, which means that it is officially a subnetwork. Now anything connected to this controller will be communicating with its own network and not that network. The reason why we want to do that is because we want to isolate everything we do over the side without getting that storage involved or any of those machines involved. And but don't want to do that. There we go. Need a piece of concrete. It's bugging me. It's bugging me. Alright, so concrete. The other thing we're going to need is we're going to need a water node. Or a liquid node, sorry. One of these puppies. And some transfer pipes. And some speed upgrades. And yes, the speed upgrades will become very necessary in this build. We're also going to need our electrolytic separators. No, not electro. Cool. Unfortunately, they don't stack. We're also going to need purifiers. We have... Oh, I didn't quite finish that. Circuits. We need to make about 16 circuits. So let's just make 20 because it's easier. And some more alloy. How's my iron doing? Quite well. What's going on there? You want more alloy? Oh, I know what's going on. Redstone. I did in fact set up some recipes in these machines, but unfortunately I didn't take care of the refilling of redstone or coal, which can be done, it's just I'm kind of lazy. And also this setup is temporary, so I'd much rather manually fill it. So I hadn't actually finished all those enrichment chambers, so I'll be back once I have the components we need to move forward. See you soon. Okay, I'm back. I just wanted to show you what I was up to, because we need to make some purification factories as part of this build. 5, that's not enough. Let's make some more alloy. 20. And gold. Oh. You know, I think I've derped up. I've made 9 purification chambers when I only actually needed 3. And the reason I did that was because a purification factory has 3 input slots. So for some reason I was thinking it was going to require 3 purification chambers per factory. Well, there you go. Now I have a whole bunch of extra purification chambers. Not exactly what I'm sure what I'm going to do with them, but we're also going to need some pressurized tubes. Go! Make me a whole lot. Oh yeah, that's going to take a while. Because everything gets done in ones. I really should just, for raw resources, change these recipes not to be 1-to-1, but more like make 8 at a time and let it work it out from there. I think that would be a lot more efficient. But 16 pressurized tubes should be enough for now. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to borrow the side of the wall. So what we're going to do is we're going to need to come up the left side with power. We then want 3 electrolytic separators, because one factory will require 3 electrolytic separators in order to function. You'll see that the way that I've organized this is with the blue tank on the left, the red tank on the right. The blue tank is hydrogen, we want the oxygen, which is on the right. So we want to set all of these to dump, because if we don't set them to dump, when it fills up its internal tank, which is this one, with hydrogen, you'll see what I mean in a minute, then it'll stop producing oxygen. So we want to dump out all the hydrogen it produces, because we have no use for hydrogen. We then want to connect these pressurized tubes, because that's the way that Mechanism wants us to move gases around. We then want to connect a factory, because the purifying factory needs oxygen to do its job. We also want to turn auto sorting on. And then we're going to do that 3 more times. Oh, 2 more times, sorry. Then we're going to have to dig in behind. Yep. Excuse me, let me in. See, I can't even step assist up from concrete because of its weird behavior. We want to get in behind here because this is how it gets its water. Hehe. Right, now if I look inside these electrolytic separators, they will be filling with water. That may need to happen faster, so we'll see, but for now, that looks pretty good. And next we need to power it all. So, let's do exactly that. We'll centralize power by bringing it across here along with this cable. It is, however, the one thing I think I criticize Mechanism for, is that in order to make the upgraded versions of the cables, you need a lot of resources, because a basic set of cables creates 8. So you get 8 basic cables for one crafting recipe. However, one elite cable requires one craft of its recipes, which is 2 circuits, plus a basic cable, and so on and so forth. So a circuit is 1 alloy, which is 1 iron and 1 redstone, plus 2 more redstone, so 3 redstone, 2 iron and 6 redstone, plus a basic cable, for 1 elite cable, which is quite a lot. So I'll see you in a second. Alright, I'm back with my 30 elite cables. While I was gone, actually, I borrowed the energy cube. That lightning, wow. I borrowed the energy cube from over here and have decided it's going to be the permanent buffer for any energy that the factory needs. So now I simply need to dig this way. And yeah, it's pointing up, but we are actually going to drop it down the side over here. Reason being is that we just want it to be able to go over the side in time. I have one off. We now have oxygen being produced. That is fantastic. And our purifier is powered. So the idea now is to get into these things. Actually, we need these purifiers to be powered elsewhere. Actually, no, we don't. Never mind. I'm being a dummy. So we want to close this up. And then I think our inputs will come on the side, so we'll leave that. Oh, why is that happening? Don't do that. It's the only thing about those carpenter's blocks being everywhere. Right, so now what we want to do is we want to create 3 input and 3 export for these purifiers. So if we run across over to here and order them in our system, we want import. We've already got 1, so we want 2 more. And export, fuzzy export, please, 3 of them. And I'll be back once those are crafted. Okay, I'm back. I actually have 4 fuzzy imports and 4 exports rather than just the 3 that I said I would need. Reason being is we need to be able to get our resources from one part of the base to the other. And we do that through the export bus. So the relay is still being powered, but we're asking for a export into that, and we want it to make sure that it exports all the different kinds of ores that we want the system to deal with. And if now I go up top, we will see in here, or should see, what's going on here. Why aren't you importing into the system? As you can see, it's got the exported ores that I've asked it to export, but it's not accepting it into the drive. And the why of that is very interesting. This has worked in the past, believe it or not. So I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong here. What I do know we need to do, first of all, however, is... Ah! No, don't do that. This is concrete, really. Get out of here. Or I'm just going to fall down. You can go there so that I can actually get behind here. Great. What we do need to do, anyway, is that we need to connect this going here and a fuzzy import here, right? Because what this fuzzy import will do once it's actually been figured out, oh, there we go. That's what was missing. The fuzzy import was missing, because I guess that fuzzy import the fuzzy input is taking the materials out of that interface. There we go. Cool. Now we can just put that back together. So what's happening here is the export is putting all the ores into the interface, and then the import is taking them back. And then eventually we're going to need to stick maybe an interface down here that's connected to this network that will push all of the completed stuff back into the network. Close that back up. Awesome. Concrete, you're so bad. I think I definitely will change that in the future. So now we want to connect things up. And the way we're going to do that is we're simply going to run ME cable under the floor in the most inefficient way possible. Yes, yes, you're being connected. There we go. And we want to head straight over to these puppies. Right, so we want to import into our system from the sides of these, and we also want to shift click these to clear them, set these to red, and whoa, dark blue. Cool, so all of those are set, and then we want fuzzy exports along the top. ME cable. Whoa. Like that. What I should have done actually is I should have ran this from here. So officially, these should now be hooked up to the system. And in fact, if I put this on move stack and say iron, we should be getting iron in from here. Except I have no iron. Alright, let's try tin. There we go. Tin is being put into the purifier, which is steadily using the oxygen from the system and turning each piece of iron into 3 tin clumps. And then the tin clumps are being taken straight back out and put back into here. Fantastic. And then we're going to say osmium and gold and lead. Silver is also part of this, but I don't have any silver ore with me. And then we want to do this. Because what a lot of people don't realize is when Algorithm made memory cards for AE, these fantastic little things, which I would much prefer up here, please, and processor, begin. He didn't just design them for the peer-to-peer network, he designed them for copying and setting settings from absolutely everything. So once that arrives back in the system, any moment now, there we are, memory card. With this blank memory card, what I can do now is come over here to our export, right click, click, and click. Now all of these know about how to produce or import everything that they need to. And now we have 3 working purification factories. Hooray! Now we have purified stuff. What do we do with purified stuff? Well, we crush it. So, I'm going to be back once I have some crushers. See you soon. Okay, I'm back. I have 3 sets of factories here. 3 sets of 3. I actually found some silver ore because I had to go get some redstone. Because, unfortunately, making 64 elite universal cables really chewed through my redstone supply. So I'm by no means flush with resources. But the next part of what we need to do is we need to set up these things. So the next stage is that we need to crush. Because we need to crush the clumps. And why? Because you have no oxygen. You have no oxygen because I never turned dumping off. There you go. There's a perfect example of why you need to dump out the hydrogen from these electrolytic separators. Cool. Good thing we noticed that. Good learning experience. So yes, first things first, we want to crush. So in order to crush, we want to... Let's dig out some spots first. First of all, we want some power running to these beasties. We're going to want... How's that? It's good. That is going to be fairly good, yes. Then we will run some elite cable. Boop, boop, boop. Alright. And then we'll go out 3 spaces. 1, 2, 3. And do that again. 3 spaces. Maybe 2. We'll do 2. It'll be tidier that way. Not sure why I dug those 2 out, but there we go. And place those 2 in correctly. 1, 2, 3. Put the concrete back. Right. Universal cable. So, what will happen now is that, first of all, things will get the... Is this the right one? Yes. Things will get crushed. Deliciously crushed. Then they will get enriched. And you see they're all basic factories, but you hold shift and they're all different ones. So there's a smelting, these 3 here are smelting, these 3 are enriching. If those were still in my inventory, that would say crushing. So next we want to enrich them. And then finally we want to smelt them. Cool? So all of these should be powered. And now we want to... We will import from the back. Oh. Which means we want to make sure that this... I believe this is the back one. We'll soon find out. Right, and then we want to put the export bus, because we're exporting into these machines, the 3 different stages that it goes through. And in order to do that, actually, we want to make sure that these have silver in them. Just like that. Silver in here, wait for it to get purified, Handled by that fellow. Cool. And now we have a representative of, so far, each of the things that we need. There should be 7, we have 6. What are we missing there? We've got iron, copper's the one missing. It'll be fine though. Iron, gold, tin, osmium, silver, lead. Stack mode, memory card, just like that. Cool. Now if we throw all those in, yes of course, we need to actually hook the system up. And what's going to be the best way to do that actually? I think down the side will be the cleanest, like this, and then we'll go in through underneath. And we'll pass it on underneath the universal cable here. Oh, off those go. There we go, evenly spread out actually. Gets turned into dirty iron dust and imported. Need to put those under stack mode though. Which now gets us our dirty iron dust. Then we'll just keep hooking these up. Oop. Now all 3 of those systems should now be prepared to actually process anything that we give them. So those will enrich and those will smelt. But we only have dirty iron at the moment. So for demonstration purposes, I'll set those all up. Pop our dirty iron back in. Produces iron dust. Which turns up in here, and iron dust. I think I missed stack mode on all of those. Nope, just one. Right. So now we have a full production line, at least for iron. And what will happen from this point on is that I'll add them to these different aspects. But we have a 4 times and a 5 times version of production. Right now we're only doing 3 times. So we get 3 clumps each time this produces something. Let me get away from that noise. Each time the purifiers do their magic, we get 3 clumps. If we put ore straight into the system. Those clumps then get rendered down to dirty iron or dirty ore. Then the dirty ore becomes clean ore, and then the clean ore becomes the ingot. But we can turn those into shards, and if I go into any eye here, if I go shard, we have these shards here, and this is tier 4. So the tier 4 process, if we gave if I do recipe, if I gave ore to the tier 4 process, the injection chamber, it would get turned into iron shards. But to get the tier 4 going, we need to build a salination plant, and that will be the next step in the chain that we handle. So once that happens, instead of feeding these in directly ore, we'll be feeding them in shards instead, but we'll have injection chambers set up that will be processing using hydrogen chloride, which we produce using a salination plant, to process them into shards. And then there's a fifth stage, which requires the liquidation of the ore that we collect, and then that goes through the entire process all on its own. So as you can see, at only 3 times we've filled up quite a lot of space. It's true that we've got quite a few machines more than we possibly need, but I think we'll end up using these machines quite a lot once we have a proper mining operation going on. So that's how much room just a 3-time system works, according to Aidan C. Brady. And then we have the 4 times, and planned out in my test world, the 5 times, which takes up quite a lot of space. So, I'm just going to take a break here, and I'll be back in a second. Okay, buried under the ground here, I have 3 barrels with ingot pictures on them, without ingots actually being in them. They are locked, however, and the reason we're doing this is, and burying it underground, is because, first of all, this part doesn't need to be seen. It's not part of this whole machine. It's kind of going to work and never have any bugs. But the idea simply is that we want to unify all the ingots that we get into the system and ensure that all the ingots and everything that we make from them get processed into a particular kind of ingot. Right now in my hand I've got rotary craft silver, and that's because at some point I processed and straight smelted some rotary craft silver flakes. So the purpose of this system can be shown off here. This has a different kind of silver on it, but what these better barrels are able to do is unify all dictionary compatible items. So if I right click, I now have more silver ingots than I started with. 7 more. So those 7 effectively are the 7 we just put in of rotary craft silver, and it's now become thermal expansion silver because that is what the better barrels is converting to. And if I come up here, I also set up tin and copper. You don't need to set up gold or iron or osmium because there is only one kind of iron, one kind of gold, and one kind of osmium. And fortunately, lead gets processed into thermal expansion lead, which is the kind of lead that I wanted. Anyway, export. I should have 3 of these. What happened? You are missing blocks of iron. Am I already out of iron? Oh my god, I am. Well, good thing we have a little iron in here. May as well take that gold. I had 700 iron and it's all gone. There you go. At the start of this episode, that is. Right. You're going to be able to keep going? No, you're not. If it's missing materials and you know you have materials that it's looking for, you can clear the missing material and it'll try and remake it, which it's done right now. So I'll be back once I have those exports, which I thought I had. See you soon. Alright, I'm back with exports in hand. The great thing about these fuzzy exports is that they're fuzzy. What fuzzy means is similar to the way that this is ORDICT compatible, as in it will store all kinds of silver except turn them all into one kind. It still accepts all kinds of silver, right? So that's the same thing as a fuzzy export bus. If this was a precision export bus, if I put silver ingot in there, it would only accept the thermal expansion kind of silver ingot. However, because this is fuzzy, it'll accept any kind of silver ingot, regardless of whether it's thermal expansion, emashes, whatever. So it's going to ask for any kind of silver and then throw that silver through this system. Then we want, what is it, copper? And we want tin. What we should actually be doing, it's an interesting thing to say, is actually getting a precision export bus along the top here, and I just realized because this will constantly churn, and you'll see what I mean in a second. But basically, did I set those export buses? I think I did. Copper and tin. Yes, that's right. Turn them all onto stack mode. Put some precision import buses on. The only reason they're precision import is because there's only one kind of thing that's going to be coming out of these barrels, so it doesn't need to be precision, but precision are cheaper, and they also move stacks, whereas basic import and exports do not move stacks. Then we want to dig under here, because we want access to this cable. Right. So now, what's going to be happening is, if I take away this, this will be putting in all the tin possible, right? So we've got 3 silver there, and 1 times 64 plus 26. So 6, 7, 8, 90 tin. But if I hook this back up, this is going to constantly churn, because this is always asking for tin, and this is always pulling out tin. So what we need to do is we need to say put any tin except this kind of thermal expansion tin in there. And unfortunately you can't reverse that comparison. You can do match any, but all of those will be asking for exactly the same thing. So we actually want to break that for now. And then I want to make 3 precision import buses. Precision. No. Export. We have 1 precision export bus, which will actually prove my point quite well. But for now, we'll ask it to make 2. If I bring this precision import bus here, also another trick that I think you can do, I can't confirm that just yet while I'm talking and fumbling, is that if I say ingot tin, no, tin ingot, these are all the different kinds of tin ingot that I have access to in this pack. We want only the Tinker's Construct tin, and I think I can say there are some interfaces which interact in this fashion where you can drag and drop, but apparently this AE1 is not that kind of interface. So what I can actually do, however, is quickly take one of these, because this is disconnected, isn't it? Yes, great. I can crush you down, which will automatically get turned back into an ingot, because this is asking for clean dust, and when you crush down an ingot you automatically get clean dust. That'll get turned into an ingot, the kind that we don't want. There we go. And then I can say, please pull in these kinds of ingots. And every time the system gets a kind of ingot that I want to turn into this ingot, I can simply add it to that interface. But now, when I do this, and then hook the system back up, the silver's still going to churn, unfortunately, but for now, and this should be pulling all that out, and then we should never see tin in this barrel ever again until new tin comes in that isn't the kind that we want, because it's specifically asking for mechanism tin. See, this one is still churning, and this one is doing nothing, which is exactly what we want, and sitting in here will be our 91 tin ingots. And you can see the silver's freaking out. So I'll need to do something about that, and that will be simply to get those precision export buses that I have up here. I'm sure I can put those extra fuzzy ones that I made accidentally then to good use, but come on fingers. Precision export. Right. These have no data in them. I have a silver in here, and I simply want to crush some copper and silver. You may ask why I specifically want that kind of ingot. I just like that kind of ingot, and also it creates less trouble when making blocks. There we go. So now we can say, I want that silver, I also want that copper dust. Yeah, there we go. That's handy, isn't it? Unfortunately, we can't get the dirty or the clump. But now we... oh, wrong thing. Copper in there, please. Twiddle thumbs. Great. So now we say, please accept this copper in full stacks, and this silver in full stacks. And we now put these in here and connect the system back up, which it already is. Then it would have taken those and turned them into the correct ingots. Cool. Now, one last thing before I end the episode is that we need to send all these delicious goodies back to that system. Take it out of the isolation and back into the system. Really easy. Really easy. I need an interface and a bunch of cable, and that's it. Actually, I also need an export. But we'll say, no, we don't want fuzzy, we want precision export again. Because we don't want to accidentally send it any of the ingots we're wanting to unify. Hopefully that won't take long to craft. Right, and then we need one interface. Because the thing about an export bus is that, where's that interface? There we go. An export bus will not send data in both directions that it's connected, if it's connected. Well, it won't send data on its connecting side. And by that I mean this. If I break this cable, everything dies. But now it's reconnected to this random interface, right? And then if I come back up here, everything's on again. Great, perfect, wonderful. But then we connect up a precision export bus, like that. And then, actually, you know what, to keep things tidier. Yes, I like to be tidy, even underground. Right, like that. So this precision export bus will only send and receive data along those connecting sides, and one down there and here and there, but it will not send and receive data through its solid face, which is where it's sending to. So this here interface is connected to the original system, and if I connect this up like this, this is still an independent subsystem. However, what we want this now to do is, if I clear out some of that space, we want the osmem, we want the copper, we want the tin, we want the silver, we want the lead. No, that's not lead. Lead. I want to go get some iron and gold. Yep. Iron and gold. just like that. Now I want to break that just so that I have time to show you, but if I hook that all up like this, I could be shift clicking this and say move stacks. You'll see that everything is still here. I'll even put that back in there to show you. But the moment that I hook this up, everything's being taken out, right? And then if I go to this interface, it's not in the interface, it's actually back in the system up here. And I don't think you'll be able to tell because I think I have a bunch of everything, but you can take my word for it. Everything's back here. Actually, the 18 osmium. There you go. We have 18 osmium back in the system, which is great. So we now have an independent subsystem which deals with all our production of, or processing of incoming ores. This system will collect the ores, send them through to the subsystem. The subsystem will process it and then send it on back. And we'll never have to see any of the byproducts processing through this system at all, ever. Cool. So thank you all for watching the episode. Next episode, what I want to do is I want to get on with the salination plant, and in order to do that, if I change it to map mode rather than underground, we're going to move to the desert, which means we're going to have to set up a new portal. And in this desert, we're going to build a large salination plant, and that salination plant will produce brine for us, and with that brine, we will do all sorts of snazzy things. But in the meantime, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.